Howdy, guys, gals, and non binary pals. This is the Tales from the Waystone Summer Reading Program.
We are your hosts, Will and Phoenix. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the third installment of our series on John Scalzi's Starter Villain, The Challenges of Maintaining Productive Cetacean Labor Relations, where we'll be reading chapters 8 through 12.
I have to put that into the naming. Wow. They usually like shorter file names than that, but we've done it before. Anyway, brief explanation of the pod, which may or may not be slightly inaccurate. Each week we'll be examining a section of Starter Villain and figuring out what we can take from text and apply to our real lives, and we can also take some time to focus on something we have learned for the week, and then share a recommended thing of the week. Finally, we'll wrap things up with a notable quotable from the book that made us smile or laugh or think. I don't think we do it in that order, but whatever. Before we begin, let's get some disclaimers out of the way. First of all, we are in no way affiliated with John Scalzi or his publisher, Tor Books. Second of all, discussions naturally assume that you have read through the end of chapter 12 of Starter Villain. If you haven't, please pause this podcast right now, go read it, and come back. That last part's important, but also is that first part. Go read it. This is an amazing book. It's not very long. Go read the book. You're back? You read it? If you didn't read it, I'm going to just assume you don't care about spoilers. Also, word to our community, please be kind to yourselves, one another, and the creators of the worlds that we love exploring.
All right, so we pick things up at the volcano lair.
So there's a volcano lair.
It's a little less glamorous than we might be led to believe in a James Bond movie.
That's not what I was thinking of. I was thinking of The Incredibles.
Yeah, my volcano lair is always a Dr. No or Goldfinger type thing.
I mean, that's fair. They even reference Goldfinger in the last chapter of this little section that we're going through?
Yeah, like the whole evil genius sitting on their island lair with a volcano and lasers and all sorts of booby traps and goons hired to wander around and patrol the island.
And make it look all dangerous and nefarious and...
Yeah. So we start things off with a brief explanation of how this volcano lair came to be, which is a little bit more mundane.
It reads to me like if you were to watch an episode of Defunct Land on YouTube.
It's a whole bunch of things that people started out doing and then they stopped doing because it was no longer profitable or it was never going to be profitable.
And I would suggest, as I've said before, read the book if you really want to know anything about it, because it's not worth rehashing for me.
The long and short of it is that now this is a place that Jake Baldwin and his holding companies purchased a couple decades ago.
It's an R&D facility.
Pretty much. It's an off-books R&D facility where companies can come there and lease space and work on whatever they want away from prying eyes and with very limited regulatory oversight. So it's like half R&D factory and half startup incubator.
I would like to start off with good news. You may have burned up in a fire.
I mean, that's a hell of a way to open a line.
Yeah. So there's a whole lot of description of this place is called St. Genevieve, and there's a lot of Jennifer-related call-outs, shout-outs, whatever, to actresses, specifically naming all of the ferries that go back and forth between the mainland and the island. And the description is on point and funny, and I think, again, I don't like to rehash things that are supposed to be humorous when all I'm going to do is take all the humor away. And so I'd like to, at that point, pick up on may have burned up in a fire. Why the uncertainty?
Well, because there may be a need for Charlie Fitzer to reappear at some point in the future.
Alive and well. Probably will. So there's a back and forth about the specifics around this. Where did I burn up? The hotel that you were set up to be in. You burned an entire hotel down?
Just a wing.
Wait a second. And I just love this little back and forth. I think, like, you're starting to get the idea that the people who are interacting with Charlie right now live in a completely different reality to us normal folk.
Yeah, they're definitely a lot more blasé about things like death, dismemberment.
Property damage. Again, so I gotta say, we did go to see Superman yesterday. This tells you when this was recorded. And just as in most superhero films, the property damage is what I was thinking about a lot. I'm just like, who's paying for this all to get, like, what? What?
The insurance premiums must be through the roof.
Exactly. But the dialogue in this book is quippy. The scenarios, while it's being explained to you, actually seem very much like plausible. Oh, of course, this entire island was purchased very cheaply by someone who played the long game on things don't seem to be profitable, and let's just wait for people to start selling off their interest in things and then ultimately turn it into something completely different. It's very logically explained for something that is so improbable.
Yeah, there are bits that are really grounded, like, oh, hey, we're going to go back into all of the real estate dealings and also talking cats,
Right. And dolphins.
hence the title.
Exactly. So, again, with the back and forths and explaining to Charlie why he's here and that he's kind of been placed in charge of everything, except now he's got to go through an orientation. And like how he's not really needed for the day-to-day operations, he's got other things that he's useful for. And his immediate response is like, "Oh, so like a useful idiot?" And Morrison's like, "I was gonna say administration," which is just awesome and scathing, and I love it.
Yeah, we've all seen administrative work that inserts itself into value streams in ways that clog things up, but those serve as useful friction points for certain people in power. Yeah. One of the other things that I notice here is the way they talk about themselves as villains. Like, if we think about what a villain really is, really in most movies and TV shows and books, plays, you name it, villains are typically characters who look at the world and imagine it being different and usually don't care about what happens to the people who get in the way of that change.
And in fact, most of the time, it's exploitative. It's harming regular folks. It is like, because no one cares if the regular folks, the Robin Hood effect, right? Like the steal from the rich part. That's not a compelling narrative of punish the people who steal from the rich. But when the rich
Ash holes.
are suppressing the little guy, that's a compelling narrative because there's so many more little guys than there are rich.
Holes. And I think also when we look at, in this case, villains as Jake Baldwin saw them are people who look at the status quo and find loopholes within it to enrich themselves primarily.
So one could actually call me a villain in WoW for the fact that every holiday, what was the Winterfest thing?
Winter's Eve, maybe? I don't know.
I don't remember what WoW's winter holiday was, but whatever World of Warcraft's winter holiday was, every single year I would go to a merchant selling milk and go to the auction house and sell said milk for so much more money in game currency than I spent on it at the merchant that is a few steps away from the auction house. Because there is a recipe that you have to do for a quest that requires you to make something with milk. I exploited the system.
And more specifically, you exploited people's familiarity with the auction house as the go to place to get things.
Exactly.
Like, there's nothing stopping you from doing that. And really, the players always had a choice to go to the vendor literally a few steps away and pay pennies on the dollar.
Like, I think it was probably like 20 copper, and I would sell this thing for gold.
Right. Like I say, pennies on the dollar.
It's stupid. But it was also in-game currency and not something that I would do to actual real it matters people with actual real it matters money.
So yeah, turns out Jake Baldwin has been gathering up a whole bunch of technologies and funding them with his parking garage business.
In part, he also has been funding everything by reinvesting what he's earned. And at this point, what he's earned is numbers on a computer screen that are not useful as real life actual money.
Yeah, he's got a liquidity problem.
Most billionaires apparently have a very bad liquidity problem, but we'll get to that. For now, dolphins. So there is a little quip before this. It is apparently harder to off Charlie on the island. Like he's pretty safe here. But occasionally, like someone would make an attempt on his uncle while he lived here, but they would rarely make it past the dolphins. The dolphins. They patrol the waters around the island, not much gets past them. So we have smart dolphins. I mean, the dolphins were always smart. They just work with us now. You've met typing cats, Charlie. Don't act like smart dolphins are such a leap.
Right.
And then, what are they like? The dolphins? I'm going to let you find that one out for yourself. I wouldn't want to ruin the surprise. And it's so funny listening to this on audiobook because I read it initially and then I've been listening to it for the podcast. You can tell when Will Wheaton is amused because he has laughter that he can barely contain while he's reading it. This book gets a lot of that. Now, I do think we can go to the section with the dolphins and yeah.
So the funny thing about the dolphins is they're familiar with Das Kapital. They're Marxist unionists and they do not like their labor getting exploited. And they also tend to have a bit of
Potty mouth?
I was going to say a victim complex, but yeah, that too.
Yes, they have that too.
They tend to take the dimmest possible read of all the humans that they're interacting with. And I mean, let's be real. If we look at it from a dolphin perspective, they spend all of their time swimming around, eating fish, and having sex. And it seems like a really grand old time. And they seem to have it figured out. And then they look at humans who are just miserable all the time. Of course, we look like idiots by comparison.
So I'm going to be very clear here. I don't think I can repeat anything that the dolphins say without a lot of editing.
So we're not.
But I highly recommend reading this because it is hilarious. And I literally laughed out loud while reading it. And I don't do that with a lot of books. I just found this entire thing so funny.
So one thing that's kind of interesting about how Charlie interacts with the dolphins, though, because I do think this is important.
Yes.
And this is where we see ways that Charlie is different from everybody else that's currently involved in all of this. He is actually curious about the dolphins' labor grievances. Like, he doesn't just flat out dismiss it out of hand as, well, they're just jerks.
Well, he's also been part of a union.
Right. He's been part of a union. He's probably been on strike. He's hauled out Scabby the Rat, like all of the old union strike tactics and everything. He's familiar with them. He's been part of them. And he understands that they probably do have some things that he would want to know about.
And to be clear, I am definitely pro union.
As am I. So Charlie immediately is more sympathetic to them. And even as they are hurling invective at him, and it's a lot,
It really is.
he maintains neutrality on that. He doesn't let that get under his skin. He knows that when you have a labor negotiation that's devolved to that point, meeting vitriol with vitriol isn't going to yield a productive solution. Like, you have to start asking questions. And so he doesn't try and dictate terms to them. Instead, he focuses on listening. So yeah, Charlie approaches them with curiosity and empathy rather than hostility or contempt. And even though they don't seem to give him any
Credit or any
slack, At least for now, it's definitely a different way of approaching things. And Matilda says you don't have to do things the way your uncle did. You can make choices here. It'd probably be a good idea to understand why your uncle did things the way he did, but you're not bound by that.
The other thing to note, though, is that these dolphins who live in an island off the coast of where?
It's the South Caribbean.
Okay, so an island in the South Caribbean know about the Big Ten Ivy League schools and like know what Northwestern is, know what Rutgers is better than I do.
They have a really good satellite package.
Yep, they watch a lot of TV.
A lot of college football specifically.
So, yes. The one thing to note, though, is that even though the Dolphins are technically able to leave at any time, like they are not bound to stay, they also have the problem of being modified to the point where they can no longer go back to their pods or to normal dolphin life without severe consequences. And so they are essentially slaves because, as one of them put it, like, why don't you leave? And it's for the same reason that you don't leave your house to go live in the jungle with a tribe of bonobos. You just don't. Like,
You could. No one's saying you can't, but most people aren't going to actually have a happy and productive life that way.
and so the dolphins wouldn't have a happy and productive life that way either.
Yeah, it's one of the traps of civilization. It's very easy to say there are problems with it. It is a lot harder to just opt out of those problems. We've probably all felt that way working in certain jobs.
I have definitely resisted the idea of applying for jobs where, in my own words, and after having to apply for those jobs and then ultimately getting hired for those jobs, a trained monkey could do them. I feel like it's an insult to my intelligence to have to stoop that low, but at the same time, money.
Yeah.
I needed to eat.
Yeah, I've worked jobs that I wasn't proud of or didn't see as a calling or whatever. And, there's always that, well, why don't you just quit? And I'm like, well, I've got to pay rent.
It's 2009. I've been employed by like 6 different companies in the past year, currently employed by 3 of them. No hours, seasonal job.
Yeah. And, eventually you're just kind of like, it'd be nice to quit, but in this economy,
Or in any economy.
right? So, yeah, it's not like there are a whole bunch of companies hiring talking dolphins anyway.
Although, especially now that Charlie's in charge, this is probably the better place for those dolphins than like any of the other villains that we'll meet later on.
Well, and like I say, Charlie is actually sympathetic to their plight. He recognizes that even though he has them over the proverbial barrel from the employment perspective, that's not a reason to be dismissive of their concerns.
On to continuing orientation with a PowerPoint in a conference room that seems like it could have been anywhere and not just at a volcano lair.
Yeah, we get a little bit more here about the sorts of technologies and business models that Jake Baldwin had employed. So, for instance, he developed a rainmaking laser system, which also happened to have a side benefit of being very useful as a satellite disruption and destruction technology.
And because of things like mutually assured destruction, he has successfully turned this technology into a subscription for large countries and small countries to not allow other countries to just destroy their
Shirt. Yeah, so the idea is a nation state can pay a nominal subscription fee to have the ability to destroy any satellite in the sky as they so desire, unless that satellite also happens to belong to another subscriber.
in which case there are standing orders to destroy both.
So it effectively becomes a case of every country that is trying to do business in space is now a subscriber. They kind of have to be.
Yep, exploitative.
And you thought it was tough to cancel your gym membership.
Anyway, along the way, Charlie is just like, so if you don't like calling yourselves villains, why do you call yourselves villains? And the person running the orientation slideshow is just like, nope, nope, that's it, done, nope, mm-mm. He's questioning things. He's not bought in. Why am I here? This isn't for him.
Charlie didn't have a whole lot of choice in this. Well, I mean, he did, but not really any more of a choice than the dolphins did.
Right, because his other choice is to be going to a crappy hotel in a crappy suit with uncomfortable shoes and no money, no nothing, and being wanted by the FBI.
It's not a choice.
No. But he goes and says, okay, so like, let's look at other words that we could possibly use for villain. And like, I don't know, I'm new to this. Systems exploiters, loophole miners, chaos arbitrators.
Arbitrageurs.
That word. I'm gonna just go with whatever he said. And Hera types, you have never been in marketing.
No, Charlie is not a marketer. He's a journalist.
He cares about truth and not gaslighting or tricking or manipulating in theory.
In theory.
So I just love that he's getting schooled by his cat.
Yeah.
I mean, ostensibly still his cat, maybe? She's her own cat.
She is his cat insofar as any cat can truly be said to belong to a human being. But, I mean, he's her human.
That is very true.
So, all of this gets interrupted with an invader on the island.
We've captured a CIA agent.
Oh boy, this can't get any worse. So, turns out one of the businesses that Jake Baldwin was involved in was.
I would say services more than businesses.
That's fair. So, one of the services he provided was death faking, because it was useful for a variety of intelligence agencies to have a way to have their agents believed to be dead in a way that wouldn't show up on any internal balance sheet or audit.
Before we get too far down that road, Williams, who is the person who runs the island, is like the manager, almost like a hotel manager, and almost actually like the managers for the hotels in the White Lotus.
A little bit.
Says, yeah, he just parachuted in. He landed in the center of the island and his chute got caught in some palm trees. And Charlie's like, does this happen often? Well, the island is still largely undeveloped, so it is definitely a possibility that somebody will get caught in trees if they parachute in. And Charlie's like, no. I meant, are we often the target of CIA invasions? And Williams answers, we're on Google Maps, Charlie. Like, they know where we are.
Right.
And they all know what we do.
After all, they're customers.
Yeah, the CIA actually, should know what they do. There's even more back and forth about, the fact that Charlie was being spied on by Hera and Persephone. And all of these little back and forths and just kind of messing with Charlie about all of this. Like, we're going to have to kill the CIA agent? What? Well, it's either that or keep him prisoner. Do you want to try to justify the cost of keeping all these CIA prisoners in, a dungeon? We have a dungeon?
Well, I mean, a dungeon is really just any sufficiently large set of underground rooms.
It's like, why don't we go meet him and see where things are at that point? And it's like, wait. You want me to interrogate him? And I love this little aside because it's like, I would like to say that my voice didn't squeak at the end of that sentence, but that wouldn't be strictly true.
Yeah.
And Morrison's like, how about you let me handle this one? You can watch.
This is part of the orientation.
This pretty much is necessary to understanding everything. So we meet the CIA agent who is in the interrogation room, which happens to also be the conference room that the orientation was taking place in. And there's Hera just getting scritches.
Like a cat.
Yes, like a cat, because she's a cat.
And Matilda makes a joke about, I see you met our finest interrogator. And that's actually not far off. Because, people will say things around cats that they wouldn't otherwise say. So, turns out all of this is part of an elaborate service that gets offered by Jake Baldwin's holdings.
They are supposed to kill the CIA agent and make it look good because they're not actually going to kill the CIA agent.
Just as it may be useful for Charlie to be alive at some point or appear dead for now, it's also useful for spies to appear dead.
Well, this particular spy is named Evan Jacobs. He says he's an analyst and he gets interrogated specifically about the situation with Charlie and the house burning down and I believe, CIA agent that was in the house when it burned down.
FBI.
FBI agent. Okay.
Turns out that they've realized that Charlie was not the one who set the blaze or set the trap, and that as far as the US government is concerned, Charlie is in the clear, but it would probably be best if he not use his Desmondo Ruiz identity going forward.
Yeah. Because that has been flagged as being fraudulent.
It's a I know that you know that I know that you know scenario. I mean, really, a lot of the interactions here have the feel of we're going to maintain a useful fiction about all of this stuff. We know you're not dead, but for the sake of ease, we're going to pretend that we think you're dead. There are a lot of open secrets. So, one of the things that is kind of funny about all of this is, there's a big back and forth over how Evan wants to appear to die.
Most of the time, they just stick people into a 55-gallon drum of acid, but they do have to change it up every once in a while. And so Evan's like, throw me into the volcano, please? To which Morrison has to be the killjoy and says, well, there's no real good, accessible way to do that. Not to mention, lava is dense and it's made of rock. You wouldn't actually sink. You'd just sit there crisping. And it's unpleasant.
It's not as cool as you think.
It wouldn't happen like Gollum.
No. That prompts me to ask, so if you had to fake your own death and you wanted it to look cool, what would you do?
Oof. Blow up, probably somewhere along the water. Like speedboat or jet ski or some sort of big conflagration.
Well, because boats explode all the time.
Yes, which is a callback to our episodes of Lock Stitch, which you should absolutely go on Twitch and find, or on YouTube. We have shared links.
Yeah.
Yes.
Boats explode all the time.
I would like that. Now, CIA agent is like, maybe a shark could eat me? Sharks don't really eat people. What about you?
I mean, if we're getting into relatively science fictional, obviously being eaten by dinosaurs would be cool.
So, Jurassic Park.
I would love to get Jurassic Parked. I'm here for that. If we're talking about a little more grounded, I kind of think it would be cool to be dropped from high altitude, like from low Earth orbit almost, like the edge of the atmosphere, just to be dropped. I think that'd be cool.
Would you like to splat on the ocean or splat on land?
I don't think it matters.
It doesn't. But splatting on the ocean is like splatting onto concrete.
Exactly. That's my point. I don't think it matters.
Jacobs then says, what about death by laser? You want the Goldfinger?
Like I said, it's a James Bond thing.
Yeah. That's almost as good as a shark if it's available. Sadly, it's not. The space we use for that has been taken over by a laser lithography fabricator. It's a clean room now.
We don't want to have all that blood and gore in there.
And Jacobs looked grumpy. I can't decide what to do. Well, we could have Charlie make the call. And Charlie's just like, what? And Jacobs is just like, what do you want to do? We have to make it look good. It needs to look startlingly realistic to any outside observer who manages to view the conveniently recorded death. I do love this book.
Yeah.
And then after some more needling, there's, don't tempt me to make your death real.
So after all of this, Charlie's in an odd space. Like, he discovers that he does have quarters here, which are nice, but not over the top. They're like the second best suite at a sandals resort.
Which goes into, while his uncle was a trillionaire, again, that liquidity problem. In reality, all of that money is just numbers in a computer. Yes, it's his net worth, but his actual worth is only what people would be willing to pay for it. And not many people can pay the amount that any of that is worth. Let's put it in a different context. So there's a story that I saw on Reddit, on the Lego Reddit, where a person passed away, unfortunately, and he had a Lego collection that was on paper worth many thousands of dollars, probably close to $100,000. And his family didn't want to piece it out. They just wanted someone to buy the whole thing. No one's going to do that. No one really has the liquidity and the desire to spend all that money on one collection when maybe they want bits of the collection. We've had a different situation where somebody was selling a record player and all of their records for like 25 bucks. And we were like, could we just pick through them? No. Okay, 25 bucks isn't very much. Let's go ahead and do that. But that record collection is worth more than 25 bucks by a long shot.
Oh, yeah.
So in reality, like Jake only had a couple of million in accessible funds at any given time. And it's unlikely that he would actually be able to increase that by much.
And I think one of the things that we learn here is that for him, that was okay.
That was plenty.
He did not care about flashing the cash around the way some of the other villains that we're going to meet do care about and do want to do. And so as a result, a lot of governments preferred to do business with Jake because they could basically use a black ledger that's off the publicly available books. And knowing that it's not going to actually be spent means that it isn't going to actually impact the global economy and won't be visible. Like knowing that Jake was content to have it basically as a line item on a ledger somewhere that would never be touched meant that they felt like they could trust him in ways that they couldn't his competition.
There is one other thing that I'd like to point out. Morrison says you're not like really a trillionaire, not really, not access to trillions of dollars trillionaire. But what you are is the type of rich where you no longer have to worry about money. And I've got to say, there is a massive shift when you get secure enough to not care about the cost of everything that you ever buy. Now, I don't have that experience exactly, but what we do have is not having to worry about picking up our groceries. Like, I have definitely been in the opposite land of everything I purchased. I had to do the math right then and there, and I had to worry about every single thing of groceries.
Oh yeah, like I've been there too, where we've had to, make sure that we're getting the cheapest possible thing that is also healthy enough.
Right, and because I have weird food problems, like I can't eat a lot of processed foods, which are the less expensive things. And so when I was dirt poor and couldn't feed myself very well, I still had to avoid things that contained shelf stabilization chemicals because they do bad things to my system. And that means everything was more expensive.
Yeah, and so we had to do a lot of label reading and trying to find the right store brands that we could trust. And yeah, like having to agonize over each piece of produce and making sure we got the one that had enough to feed us but didn't cost too much.
And that is a miserable place to live in, but too many people live in that.
Yeah.
I personally think that if one person lives like that, that's too many, but when Will got his most recent job, we were able to at least not do that for groceries. Going to the grocery store and being able to buy whatever we needed without agonizing all over it was huge.
Absolutely. It's something that takes getting used to. So you look at where Charlie is now
Versus yesterday.
Yeah, he's going from not being able to afford to feed his cats to basically having everything taken care of.
Not being able to afford the non-discount shoes for his uncle's funeral.
And now he's staying in the second best suite at a sandals resort, which is a pretty big upgrade.
Speaking of that particular room, at the end of the day, and it's only been a day, he goes up to the room, he looks, he thinks about taking a shower, and then he says, screw it. And then he basically collapses on the bed, nearly asleep, like immediately. And somewhere after he's fallen asleep, he sensed something hopping up on the bed, followed by a less weighty hop. And a few seconds later, two furry objects, one small and another smaller still, plopped down next to me, Hera and Persephone. And so, my notable quotables, I'm just going to start with the next page because that's one of them, and then we'll go through the rest of them. It's okay, I murmured to Hera, eyes closed, not quite awake. I know you are working for my uncle. You don't have to pretend to like me anymore if you don't want to. And that is heartbreaking because
Mhm.
he's our human. A second later, a cat paw booped my nose as if to say, hush, silly human. Okay, I murmured, and then fell asleep, my cat's purring beside me.
Oh, yeah. Charlie's in a rough space.
Yeah. That particular thing is very there's a rejection sensitivity. I don't want to say disorder, but like it's something that happens a lot with people with ADHD, where I think he's feeling like even that small tether to emotions, to being cared for, feels like a lie, and he doesn't want to hold anyone to that lie, including his cat. But I know that every once in a while, like I have the struggle of not knowing if people are just being nice to me because they're nice people or if they actually like me. And so, yeah, that little section is a little heartbreaking for me, but also extremely sweet.
I think about this and like Charlie has been nothing but kind to these two adorable creatures. He has gone out of his way to be gentle with them and generous to them insofar as he's able to. And the thing is that we get out of Hera. Yes, she came to Charlie because Jake asked her to and hired her to. But she stays with Charlie because she likes him. She doesn't have to sleep on his bed, but she likes to.
Yeah, right now, because I'm getting ready for surgery and because, let's face it, Sokka is a sleep disruptor, we're getting better about kicking him out of the room at night, even though I really love sleeping when he's sleeping on my feet. And the poor little thing, I feel so awful for him getting kicked out, but he does it to himself. He winds up going and trying to be destructive, and then he gets kicked out and he doesn't learn. It doesn't even occur to him not to be destructive. But yes, continuing on with the notable quotables, I already said good news. Morrison said to me, you may have burned up in a fire. To continue that, there's a body. It was a pretty intense fire. I'm sorry, I was unclear in my line of questioning, I said. Did you put or cause to have delivered a body, either living or dead, into the room in order to give the impression I burned up in it? Do you think I would do that? Morrison asked. You worked for a villain and dated a stabber, I said. I absolutely believe that you would do that. Yes. You'll have more to freak out about soon. It's another one of those. Oh no, Charlie. Don't swim with the dolphins during a labor dispute, no matter how much they try to convince you otherwise. Do you know what dolphins do to people?
Oh, yeah, it's pretty gross.
They try to have sex with them forcefully.
Yes.
No, thank you. I have a note here that, like, notable quotables, pretty much everything the dolphins say, but I'd have to edit so much that I'm not sure it's worth repeating any of it. So just go read it. However, if you were a dolphin without options, maybe you'd say fork a lot too. I can't tell if you're joking with me, I said. I'm mostly joking with you. That mostly is doing a lot of work in that sentence. And the reason I pulled that one out is because you and I say that a lot. That's doing a whole lot of work in that sentence.
Yeah. If is one of those that does a lot of heavy lifting.
Just do this, just do that.
Hypothetically,
There's so many things that are doing a lot of work in that sentence. There's also, you can tell he's new. Don't give him
shirt.
I can still have the cat end you. And then, so we're like Spotify, but for evil. Oh, we're much less evil than Spotify. We actually pay a living wage to the people whose work we're selling. I can't help but love the commentary. This one and Kaiju Preservation Society both have such hilarious and yet scathing commentary on the state of the world. Speaking though of Kaiju Preservation Society, so this one's going to be a little weird to try to figure out what y'all want to listen to because we're recording this at the end of July and I think this is coming out in September. We'll double check that and probably put a poll out. We would like to know what people would like to have us talk about next time. And I still think I'm going to be in Let's Do Cozy, or at least my brand of cozy, which includes starter villain. So maybe the word that I'm looking for is lighter.
Breezy.
Yeah, but then again, one of our options is to combine both monk and robot books. And I wouldn't call them breezy because they are definitely thinky.
They're cozy but thinky.
They're definitely cozy but thinky. So our options are Kaiju Preservation Society by John Scalzi, which I really, 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 really love. The Monk and Robot books combined because together they make a whole book by Becky Chambers. And Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is to continue on with the Legends and Lattes. It's a prequel, and Will has read it and I have not. Anyway, let us know what you think. Our Discord is open and free to everybody that would like to join in. There's links in the description. Please come join us. Or you can always fill out the poll that I'll probably put up on Patreon.
Sounds good.
Anyway, it is your turn for What Did We Learn?
So this is kind of a weird one, and it's not really so much a thing I learned as it's a theory I've developed. This concerns Typo Negative's September Sun. So my guitar teacher and I have been working on the final single from that band before Peter Steele's death, and we've developed a fun theory. It's a play on Guns N' Roses' November Rain. I have zero proof of this, but consider. So it starts with an opening piano bit with the frontman singing about a breakup. And the piano is actually in the same key as in November Rain. The rhythm's slightly different, but it's the same set of notes. As the frontman gets more maudlin, then the guitars kick in. And here's where things diverge. As Peter Steele gets sadder and sadder, Kenny Hickey kicks in, and he plays the voice of a friend caught between the estranged couple. On the one hand, he's watching Peter disintegrate emotionally before him, and then he's also having to relay that to Peter's ex. And at the same time, he's reminding Peter that he should probably not look to rekindle that relationship. It didn't work the first time, and they broke up for a reason, so they both probably should take some time apart to heal and grow. And the song ends with a final sunset into night, a moment of catharsis, and basically a sharing of union between the two, which contrasts with Guns N' Roses' song, which follows Axl just getting sad and feeling alone without a friend, and ultimately walking alone in the cold November rain as Guns N' Roses breaks up. Like, now, this was also kind of a swan song record for Typo Negative because Peter Steele later died from complications from years of drug abuse. But yeah, anyway, it is my fun little theory. It's a cool song off of an underrated album of theirs, Dead Again. So if you like a big gothic concept album about Rasputin, yeah, I think you'd like it.
Somehow I think that you managed to make that into a recommended thing rather than a thing you learned, but cool.
I'm learning how to play the song, so that counts.
Okay. We'll let it slide because it was fun.
That's the whole point of this whole thing.
It really is. What do you mean there are rules? We made those up.
Right? Made to be broken.
Anyway, so talking about things to recommend, I'm going to say this. It has been more challenging to find new things to recommend when we're doing this recording so truncated. However, I am so late. And of course, because this is recommending something that you're going to hear in a few months, so late now, but it still exists. Please go listen to the soundtrack for Clair Obscur. It is beautiful. The composer has pretty much said that he wanted to explore multiple genres. It's not just one thing. It's lovely and sweet and relaxing and beautiful. Laced Records just came out with the box set, and it's a pre-order, so of course I did. And I've been enjoying listening to it. It's become one of those things that I can put on during a session, like a long session of reading, or to put on to go to sleep to. It's just nice to have on in the background or to sit and listen. Lumiere is gorgeous. I really like it. And it lives rent free in my head. At this point, I have it just stuck permanently on a loop. Speaking of our guitar teacher, I introduced him to the song, and he has been working with me on doing like ear training, and he immediately was able to play it. Like, he heard it and he's just like, oh, that's a B minor, that's a this, that's a that. And I'm like, this isn't fair. I really wish that I knew how to do that. But he just instinctively can, and it was really nice to be able to share that music with him. Another thing, just as an aside for recommendations that's also pretty short, if you're going to exercise, find a way to make it fun for you and not drudgery. And the way that I've been doing that is we've been going and doing walks. It is easy for me to walk with a soundtrack. Again, I like music. And I like to choose music that is either easy to do like a march, like an almost bouncy march to, or like have to kind of dance to be able to keep up with the rhythm. And we have a little quarter-mile loop in a park, literally right outside our door. And I am perfectly okay being known as the person who kind of dances through the park on my little exercise loops. And I would rather do that than drudgery.
Good recommendations.
Thank you.
All right. Well, with that, I'd like to thank you for potting with me.
Thank you for potting with me.
And thanks for listening to Tales from the Waystone. Join us next time as we continue the summer reading program with chapters 13 through 16 of Starter Villain.
We would like to thank our friend Shawnee Jang for our theme music.
And many thanks to John Scalzi for creating this universe that we've enjoyed exploring.
Audio production and editing courtesy of me, Phoenix McCullough.
And writing and project management courtesy of me, Will McCullough.
If you would like to help support us and have the means to do so, please consider becoming a patron on our Patreon page, patreon.com/waystonepod, where you can get early access, which doesn't really help you right now because, like, whatever. However, like, the next few of them should also be available too. So if you just are super interested in listening to all of our talk about Starter Villain, you may just want to go give us $7 and listen to the rest of it, or at least through the next couple. I don't remember how many we have planned. Anyway, otherwise, come and chat with us on Discord. I know it's kind of quiet over there sometimes, but I do post memes every once in a while, and I would love to talk about the books. I would love to talk about, if you want to remind us of anything that we've ever talked about in the past 4 or 5 years, however long we've been doing this, go for it. We won't remember any of it, but it would be very entertaining. Also, check out Log Stitch, because we do that every once in a while. And if you want to hear Will pretend to be an orc and me pretend to be an otter person, absolutely super, super fun. Anyhoozle. With that, here's to one more day above the roses.
To one more day above the roses.
Ding!
Good job.
Hold on one sec. I need to make sure that I'm not going to garrot myself with all the cords.
Garroting is bad.
In most circumstances.
Garroting yourself is bad.
By accident, yes.
Garroting yourself ever. You specifically. Ever. Always bad.
That's fair. I don't go for the audio asphyxiation.
Autoerotic asphyxiation.
That.
Yeah. You usually don't garrot yourself when you're doing that, though.
Right. That does imply slicing.
Yeah, the razor wire.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
We have lovely conversations.
Don't we?